Okay, so because we spent a whole hour testing equipment, this week there will be no small group discussions. I will just lecture about today's poems. Um, but before that, first of all, thank you for helping me test the equipment. On November 21st, November 20th, we will hold the cultural exchange event here. Before that, I will divide you into even smaller groups randomly, and I will announce those groups on Moodle as well. Before the day, Kasama will give each group a Google Meet link. So for the first hour, I think they wanted from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock. You guys can do the event without needing to ask me for some kind of permission or control. And I will go around to make sure that everything is going well. I may walk around physically. I may enter your virtual rooms just to make sure things are going well. When I divide you into small groups, I will also assign a group leader for each group. And the group leader will make sure that everyone is participating. And if someone is not participating, the leader will tell me. And I will also check as I walk around. Okay, second announcement is if you tried to watch last week's recording, I forgot to record the image. I'm very sorry. So you don't have the subtitles from Microsoft, but you can turn on YouTube subtitles that are generated automatically. And if you don't know how to do that, I have added this PDF to Moodle, and you can look at that if you need it. Okay, so this week we are talking about poems by Audre Lorde and Mary Oliver. Question 1 from the poem The Woman Thing, how do you understand the titular woman thing? Like, what is it? What does it mean? These poems are quite short, so let's look at them together. This is page 89. The Woman Thing. The hunters are back from beating the winter's face in search of a challenge or task, in search of food. Okay, so already we are back to like prehistorical times where the men are mainly hunters and the women are mainly gathering like vegetables and fruits. Notice the language. The men are beating the winter's face. They are looking for a challenge, making fresh tracks for their children's hunger. They do not watch the sun. They cannot wear its heat for a sign of triumph or freedom. So this tells us that the men are very focused on the hunt. They are not paying attention to the environment, protecting themselves or their children. The hunters are treading heavily homeward through snow that is marked with their own bloody footprints, empty-handed. So they didn't catch anything. The hunters return snow-maddened. So if you've ever been to a place with snow and the sun comes out, the snow is very bright. It's bright enough to give you eye problems. If you look at the snow too long, you could go blind. So that's what this is talking about. They've been out in the snow for too long. They're kind of crazy. But they are sustained by their rages. So how do they keep going? Because they feel some kind of anger. In the night after food, they seek young girls for their amusement. Okay, so this talks about male privilege. Even though they did not catch any food, they still feel entitled to service by young women. Here it uses the word girls to be more emotionally impactful. But now the hunters are coming. So this is in the future, in the night after food. But now the hunters are coming and the unbaked girls flee from their angers. So their angers, this is referring to the hunter's rages. The girls are unbaked, like unbaked bread. They are not yet mature. They are not yet grown. All this day I have craved food for my child's hunger. So now we have the speaker. The speaker has appeared, and apparently it's a woman, right? All day I wanted to feed my child. Empty-handed, the hunters come shouting, injustices drip from their mouths like stale snow melted in sunlight. So this is how the poem talks about what the men are saying as they come back. Injustices. There are two ways to understand this. One is they are complaining about how unjust it is that they were not able to catch anything. In this interpretation, they are not taking responsibility for their failure. They're blaming the game, the animals. They're blaming the weather. They're blaming other people or other elements. The other understanding is that even though they come back with nothing, they still act like they have some privileges. They still ask for things from the women in the village, and that this attitude is unjust. So it depends on whether you think this word injustice is from the perspective of the hunters or from the speaker. And it's describing as dripping from their mouths, like there's some kind of animal who's eating raw meat and dripping blood, that kind of imagery. Like stale snow melted in sunlight. This imagery will become more clear in the next stanza. So, describing their return like melting snow in the sun. Meanwhile, the woman thing my mother taught me bakes off its covering of snow like a rising, blackening sun. So while all of the above crappy stuff is happening, the speaker's woman thing is rising like a blackening sun. So first of all, like a sun, the same sun that melts the snow of the men and their words and their anger. And also it bakes off the snow. It doesn't just melt the snow. So this is comparing to the unbaked girls. If those girls are not ready, the speaker is ready to face the situation. And then finally, it's a blackening sun. You can think of this as a kind of dark rage, a dark indignation, 愤慨. It's not a strictly positive energy. It has negative, dark undertones. And of course, it's also connected to the fact that Audre Lorde is writing from the perspective of a Black woman. So this could be talking about the specific kind of power that Black women have when faced with this kind of situation. That's what meanwhile means, right? At the same time. So while this situation is happening. So the woman thing apparently is a kind of energy or a kind of motivation or a spirit that a woman has, a grown woman has, when faced with the injustices of a male dominated society, especially when the woman is protecting other women and young girls. And we can say two more things about this. First of all, the poem is set in prehistory. So the idea seems to be that this woman thing is not new. It wasn't born in the 1960s with second wave feminism. It wasn't born in 1899 with the Declaration of the Rights of the Universal Declaration of the Rights of Humans. It has existed in every society where women are oppressed and mistreated. This seems to be the idea. This seems to be why the poem is set in prehistory. And so it's a woman thing that my mother taught me. So we now have the image, a mother teaching daughter, and then daughter teaching granddaughter, year after year, generation after generation, throughout all of human history. And because most of history has been written by men, this is something that is usually not recorded in that history. That's partly why it's called the woman thing. That's partly why it doesn't have a name. The other thing we can say about this idea is that in modern society, women are still treated unequally to men, but it's not as bad as it used to be, unless there's also a racial element. So white women are not treated equally with white men, but they are treated much better than black women are treated. So uh, here, the bringing in of race, even though it looks like it's only one word, but in modern society, for the speaker to still feel that same anger, not any weaker, still as strong as it always has been, the reason for that is probably also related to race as well as gender. The idea that women, or I guess non-men, have this kind of secret knowledge that they use to protect themselves and each other is not a new idea. This idea occurs throughout basically all societies in human history where men have more power than women. In China, we have a certain part of China has a thing called women's script or women's writing, 女书, and it was a way of writing that was only taught from mother to daughter so that men could not read what the women are writing. And the content is mostly about complaining about unequal treatment, finding comfort in the experiences of other women. The same thing that the poet is writing about here. It is also a kind of woman thing. So now we kind of understand what it's talking about, and we also understand why it doesn't have a name. Because history and most of human language has been controlled mostly by men. Questions about number one? Okay, number two, the next poem, Black Mother Woman, Why is the Speaker's Mother So Angry? Page 90. I cannot recall you gentle, so in my memory you were never gentle. Yet through your heavy love, right, heavy, right, because not gentle. Through your heavy love, I have become an image of your once delicate flesh, split with deceitful longing. So the speaker apparently is talking to her mother, right? Black mother woman. And she's saying that even though it does not feel like you were gentle when you were raising me, today, now that I have grown up, I have become someone who looks like you. I am an image of your once delicate flesh. So this line also tells us something. The mother was not always lacking in gentle comfort, right? She was once delicate. So maybe something happened to make her the slightly colder woman that the speaker remembers. The other main idea that comes up here is the idea of desire, sexual desire. Longings combined with flesh. Flesh means the human body. And then if we're thinking about women, we could also consider split a sexual word. So something about sexual desire will be developed further in this poem. Deceitful longings, dishonest, trickery. So this desire is not simple, it's not straightforward. When strangers come and compliment me, your aged spirit takes a bow, jingling with pride. Okay, so today, the speaker's mother is old, aged. Um, In English, there are like 3 or 4 words where you have to pronounce the E. Aged to mean old, beloved to mean someone who is beloved, and winged to mean something that has wings. So aged. If you don't pronounce the E, then the meaning is different. It's not old, it means having grown old. So like aged wine, wine that has been left to grow over the years, collected ages, collected years. But here, this is just an adjective, aged, old. So now when people come and compliment the speaker, her mother is filled with pride. But once you hid that secret in the center of furies, okay, so it used to be a secret. What used to be a secret? And you hid the secret in the middle of fury. It was an angry secret. You were angry that you had to keep this secret. It should not have been secret. The word furies is also important because if you use a capital F, 大写 F, furies, it refers to, in ancient Greek mythology, the oldest generation of spirits who come and punish people if they disrespect the mother of the family. So here we're talking about mothers. This is important. Okay, you hid that secret in the center of furies, hanging me with deep breasts and wiry hair with your own split flesh and long-suffering eyes, buried in myths of little worth. Okay, so it looks like the secret is me. The speaker of the poem is the secret. So apparently, when she was a kid, her mother was afraid to let people know that she had a daughter. Her mother kept the speaker's mother kept the speaker a secret, even though she didn't want to, right? Fury. So where did she keep her daughter this secret? Hanging me with deep breasts and wiry hair with your own split flesh and long-suffering eyes. So why did her daughter have to be kept a secret? It's related to these details about her mother's body. Deep breasts, wiry hair. These are details that can be used to describe Black women, some Black women. So it's related to her mother, the fact that her mother is Black. With your own split flesh and long-suffering eyes. So her mother had to keep doing this year after year. Split flesh, I guess, could mean like the fact, like the fact that she has a daughter proves that she had had sex with someone. Split flesh. And this secret was buried in myths of little worth. So here I think it's talking about how a white supremacist society treats Black women as if they have less value. One of the reasons that they give is they say things like, oh, Black people don't understand family planning. They just like to have sex and they keep having children that they cannot afford to raise. This is, of course, not true. But it's one of those racist myths that white people sometimes believe. So this is a myth of little worth. Two meanings. First, the myth itself is worthless. But secondly, the myth says that Black women, like the speaker's mother, are worthless because of the fact of children. But I have peeled away your anger down to the core of love. So the image here is of a fruit. The peel on the outside and the core on the inside. 那个核. So the outside is anger, but the inside is love. And look, mother, I am. Capital A. The word to be or am originally means to exist. So this is not just the beginning of this sentence. It's also emphasizing that the daughter has grown up and is now a full human being. I am a dark temple where your true spirit rises beautiful. So in Christian imagery, the human body is described as a temple of God. But here the poet is taking this image and instead of venerating God is venerating her mother. I am a dark temple, again, because they are black people, where your true spirit rises beautiful. So where everybody else sees a cold, rough woman, her daughter sees a beautiful woman with a true spirit. And tough as chestnut. Chestnut is a kind of nut, it's very tough to crack. Stanchion against your nightmare of weakness. So here she's describing herself as a kind of bulwark or a defense, a support against her mother's fear that she would be weak or that her daughter would be weak. So remember, at the beginning of the poem, she says, I have become an image of your flesh. I am just like you. So by understanding her mother, she is also becoming like her mother, strong and beautiful. So this is describing herself, but it's also describing her mother. Our strength, our beauty defends against your fear of being weak. And if my eyes conceal a squadron of conflicting rebellions, a squadron is a small squad of soldiers. Like when you send an army to fight, they don't just all go in one big group, like they go into little groups. A squadron is the smallest group of soldiers. So conflicting rebellions, rebellion could be military, right? People fighting against their leaders. But here it's describing the conflict within the speaker psychologically. If my eyes conceal this inner conflict, I learn from you to define myself through your denials. So if it feels like I'm not trying to make everything make sense, if it feels like I believe in two different things, I also learned this from you. When you deny my existence, when you deny the fact that you were in a relationship but now are not in the same relationship, when you deny what white people say about you, you are defining yourself. And this I also learned from you. This is why it doesn't matter if my eyes don't tell you the truth. Don't say the whole story. Because in denying the, let's call it the white offensive part of the story, I'm also defining myself. So the interesting part of this poem is that it's the process of the speaker understanding her mother and therefore understanding herself. But the understanding is not logically consistent. It is full of conflict. It is full of contradiction. And that is fine. Humans are not robots, right? Our brains are not logically consistent. So it's natural and healthy to face the contradictions within your own psychology and to accept them, if necessary, as part of who you are as a person. So the question, why is the speaker's mother so angry? Maybe because the mere fact that she has a daughter but not a husband opened her up to racist insults and mistreatment. Even though the daughter is perfectly beautiful and healthy, even though the mother and daughter have a great relationship, but the society does not recognize the joy of this kind of single mother-daughter relationship, especially if the mother and daughter are black. Maybe that's why the mother is so angry. And then at first, maybe she felt vulnerable and hurt, but over time, right, she became hard as a defense. right? Long-suffering eyes. Okay, questions about number 2? Okay, number 3. Let's move on to Mary Oliver. I believe you don't have to read The Black Snake. That's fine. The first assigned poem is Wild Geese. So remember, Mary Oliver is a white Catholic woman. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your. Sorry, what's the question? What do you think Wild Geese is a religious poem? Why or why not? Okay. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. To repent is to ask forgiveness. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Okay, so this first part, it's saying, even if you aren't perfect, that's fine. Even if you have made mistakes, you don't have to make yourself suffer in order to ask for forgiveness. All you have to do is let yourself love what you want to love. And by you, the speaker does not mean you intellectually, like you make a list of what you like and then you arrange them in order, not like that, but like what you feel like you want to love, what naturally attracts you and draws you, what the speaker calls the soft animal of your body, not your mind, your body. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. So this uses a common motif of sharing secrets. If you tell me your secret, I will tell you my secret. But here, instead of secret, it's talking about despair. Despair is the state of having no hope. So if you share your deepest, darkest lack of hope with me, I will share mine with you. So the important idea here is that everybody has despair. Everybody has darkness in their heart somewhere. Even like your friend or classmate who seems happy every day, who brings energy into every room, the speaker is saying even that person has a dark part of their heart. And if you're willing to share, they will also be willing to share. Meanwhile, the world goes on. So while you're thinking about your mistakes and your suffering and your forgiveness, while you are thinking about despair and secrets, the world goes on. The world doesn't stop for you. Meanwhile, the sun and the dear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes over the prairies. A prairie is a large field of grass, 草原, and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. If you don't know, geese are a kind of bird. So first we have nature imagery, then we have geese, and the geese are flying in clean blue air. The word clean is kind of like what we are looking for when we ask for forgiveness. We want to clear away the guilt. We want to clean our hearts. So the geese are already flying in clean air and they're heading home again. First of all, heading home is a beautiful idea. When you've been, for example, when you've been walking for 100 miles through the desert, you want to go home. But also they're heading home again. So it's not after a long time, they are able to go back day after day. It's where they feel that they belong. Home really does feel like home for them. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. So the sound of geese is harsh. If you've ever heard like a goose before, the sound is like a honk, but it's also exciting. It's something new. It's something different. It's an animal talking to you. It's a life form talking to you. And they are over and over saying that you too can find a home in nature. The family of things is, I think, what the speaker is talking about is nature. And the idea of like the geese being able to always go home, they are telling you, you can also find a home in this world. You don't have to be good. You don't have to be forgiven. All you have to do is open up your heart to what you love and to be open to sharing the darkness of your heart and mind with other people who also have darkness within themselves. So, is this a religious poem? On the one hand, it kind of is, right? The word repent is a religious word. And then the idea of suffering for forgiveness is also quite religious from Christianity, but also some other religions have this idea as well. If you make a mistake and you want God to forgive you, you have to suffer first. The word despair also began in religion. It originally meant losing your faith in God, if we're talking about Christianity. So it has religious ideas and religious words. But I think the main message of this poem still makes sense, even for people who don't believe in Christianity or any kind of religion at all. Even people who don't believe in religion understand the ideas of guilt and forgiveness and suffering and lack of hope. Uh, and everybody can feel the spiritual support of nature and of animals. Um, Although I should add, even this nature part is Christian. Christians believe that the world was created by God, and therefore praising the natural world is also praising God. It's telling God, like, oh, you did a great job, something like that. So if the strictly religious reading of this poem is saying, even if you are not a good Catholic, even if you don't go to church every Sunday, even if you don't follow all the rules, it's fine as long as you are able to keep seeking God with other people, and as long as you can feel God in his creations. The non-religious reading of this poem is even when you feel like crap, even when you feel guilty, you feel like you need to suffer to make things better, you don't have to. All you have to do is be willing to listen to what you really want, to listen to the darkness that you share with other people, and to enjoy life even outside of human society in the larger natural world, and you will be able to find a place for yourself. Questions about number 3? Okay, number 4. Do you think The Return is a love poem? Why or why not? So last week we talked about this is based on Greek mythology. Theseus returning from the middle of the labyrinth uh, with the help of Ariadne's thread. The deed took all my heart. So, like after killing the Minotaur, Theseus was exhausted. Uh, it took all of his mind, all of his energy to complete this task. And this explains line 2. I did not think of you, because he was so focused on killing this monster. I did not think of you, not till the thing was done. I put my sword away, and then no more the cold and perfect fury ran along my narrow bones. So in order to kill someone, most people have to put a lot of anger and energy into the action, including soldiers. If to really muster up the courage in order to like enter battle, even with guns, not swords. People usually have to work themselves up into that emotional state. So this is what this is talking about: the cold and pure and perfect fury running along my narrow bones, inside of my body. But now that he's killed the monster, he doesn't need this fury, no more. And then no more the black and dripping corridors hold anywhere the shape that I had come to slay. So this is talking about the maze. You can imagine it's an outdoor maze. The walls are very high. Nobody is cleaning it. So it is black and dripping, wet. Like the walls are high, so like the sun cannot reach, and so it's never completely dry. And you don't know exactly where the monster is. So anywhere the shape, not maybe not at the center, but it could be anywhere. The shape that I had come to slay. Slay means kill. So I no longer have to worry, like, will the monster suddenly appear around the next corner? Then, for the first time, I saw in the cave's belly the dark and clotted webs. So now he's finally noticing his environment, full of cobwebs, right? Nobody's cleaning this area. The green and sucking pools, pools of water. The rank and crumbling walls. Rank means like dirty, disgusting. The maze of passages. A passage is like a hallway. And I thought then of the far earth, of the spring sun and the slow wind, and a young girl, and I looked then at the white thread. Okay, so in this version of the story, the thread is white. So after looking, like he killed the monster, he's looking around at his environment, he is thinking of what life is like outside of the maze, and then he remembers Ariadne, and then he looks down into his hands and he sees the white thread. Hunting the Minotaur, I was no common man and had no need of love. Right, he's not an ordinary man, he's a hero. And so he's saying the reason I did not think of you is because I was busy being a hero. I did not feel the need for love. I trailed the shining thread behind me for a vow and did not think of you. So if when I was hunting the monster, I did not love you, why did I still leave the thread behind me like you asked me to do? Because I promised for a vow. And I always keep my word. It lay there like a sign, coiled on the bull's great hoof. So, like, I guess after they fought, now the thread also got tangled up onto the Minotaur's foot. And back into the world, half blind with weariness, I touched the thread and wept. So after he follows the thread, he finally reaches the exit of the maze. He's so moved, he's moved to tears in the middle of his exhaustion. Can you imagine dragging a huge heavy sword and wandering around a maze, never knowing whether the monster will be around the next corner? And when you finally reach the monster, it is a half bull, half human, which means he's a man, but he's bigger than a man and stronger than a man. And you have to use your big sword to kill it. And then finally, after he's dead and you're already tired, you have to find your way back out of the maze. No wonder he's so tired. Oh, this is the thread. It was frail as air. And I turned then with the white spool. The spool is the thing where you wind the thread. 那个中文叫什么？就是把线卷上去的那个东东。Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. That's called a spool. And I turned then with the white spool through the cold rocks, through the black rocks, through the long webs, and the mist fell, and the webs clung like it's sticking to his person. And the rocks tumbled, and the earth shook, and the thread held. The thread is still connected, it's still there. So even through this terrible environment, even through the mist, the cobwebs, even through what sounds like an earthquake, the thread was still connected, and it led him out to safety. So the question, is this a love poem? I mean, you could say yes, right? Because Ariadne does love him. And he does talk about, like, when I was hunting the monster, I did not love you. But now you saved me. Apparently, his feelings are different. On the other hand, he doesn't actually say he loves her. It sounds like he's not in love. It sounds like he's grateful. But why is he grateful? Because her love was strong enough to bring him out of the maze. So even though it looks like the love is only in one direction, sorry, fans of One Direction, but it is about this love that Ariadne has for him and how he is saved by her love. So it depends on whether you think that qualifies as a love poem. Does a love poem have to be about two people who love each other? Does it have to be at least from the perspective of the person who is in love? Or can a love poem be from the perspective of the person who is loved? Questions? All right, number 5. Why do you think, do you think the poems by Mary Oliver are feminist? Why or why not? I think we can all agree the poems by Audre Lorde are feminist. They are about oppressed women. They are about a black woman, mother figure. Very feminist poems. But what about Mary Oliver? We have one more poem we have not yet discussed. I will go through this very quickly. Poppies, 罂粟花, kind of flower. The poppies send up their orange flares, swaying in the wind. Their congregations are a levitation of bright dust, of thin and lacy leaves. Okay, so comparing the flowers to a church. Congregation is the group of people who go to church. There isn't a place in this world that doesn't sooner or later drown in the indigos of darkness. Indigo is a deep blue. Compared to the flowers, they are orange. So the speaker is saying everywhere in the world, sooner or later, will fall to dark blue darkness. But, but now, for a while, the roughage shines like a miracle as it floats above everything with its yellow hair. So yes, even these poppies will fall to darkness one day. You can think of darkness as death. You can think of darkness as sadness. But not today. Today, for now, just for now, the flowers are yellow and beautiful, like a miracle. Of course, nothing stops the cold. The cold, black, curved blade from hooking forward. This is talking about death, right? The image of death holding a curved scythe, the curved blade. Nothing stops death. Of course, loss is the great lesson. So the great lesson of life, in Chinese we would say 人生最大的课题 is loss and death, and how you face death and how you come to terms with death. That is the great lesson, of course. But also I say this, that light is an invitation to happiness, and that happiness, when it's done right, is a kind of holiness, palpable and redemptive. So redemptive means it can save you. Palpable means you can feel it. So light invites you to happiness. Happiness is holy, which means sacred. You can feel it and it can save you. Inside the bright fields, touched by their rough and spongy gold, I am washed and washed in the river of earthly delight. And what are you going to do? What can you do about it, deep blue night? So, yes, death comes for us all, but in this moment, the speaker is enjoying these flowers, and there is nothing that death can do about it in this moment. Does that feel feminist? I mean, it uses flowers, right? But this poem could apply equally well to everybody, I think. Doesn't have to be women. Similarly for wild geese, in fact, this religious imagery is more suited to a man. It's usually men in the Bible who are suffering and repenting. But you could also say that her alternative, therefore, is a feminine alternative. So even though it doesn't seem like it's talking to women or about women, it could be a kind of feminist idea. And then finally, the return. Uh, it is about a woman and the woman's love and the power of a woman's love to save a man. That could be a feminist reading. So it seems like even though these three poems are not specifically about feminist ideas, they present ideas from a woman's perspective or that are not the same as a traditional man's perspective. And in that sense, they could be considered feminist poems. Questions? Okay, very, very quickly, we have to introduce the midterm exam. I have 2 minutes. So it's here. It is it's an online open book take-home essay question. Here are the rules. Please follow them carefully. Number 1, your answer must be an English essay with multiple non-itemized paragraphs, not a numbered or unnumbered list. So a few things. 1, has to be in English, has to be an essay, has to have multiple paragraphs. The paragraphs cannot be in a list. Even if your list does not have numbers, it is still a list. And here's what I mean. This is a bad example of what you should not do. Look at this. First idea, colon. Second idea, colon. This is a list. It is an unnumbered list. No numbers, but it is still a list. Don't do this. Just write a regular essay. It will be graded according to accuracy, logic, and source. So I'm going to say your answer must use the assigned readings. It is open book, so you have to use the book. You have to give information from the reading, and you have to give me where it is. So is the information accurate? Is the location that you give me correct? And is the connection between your evidence and your answer? Does that make sense? That's how I'm going to grade your exam. Which means there's no standard answer. You can answer however you want as long as the evidence can explain your answer. You must give at least 4 different discontinuous pieces of specific evidence from your chosen assigned class reading. So you will have a choice, but whatever you choose, you have to give 4 pieces of evidence. They must be different. You cannot use one piece of evidence 4 times. They must be discontinuous. You cannot give line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4. It has to be from different places. Unless you can explain why line 1 and line 2 are about different things. And they must be specific. You cannot give me a general idea. You have to give me a detail. And you have to give me the location of the evidence in parentheses next to each piece of information, not at the bottom, right next to it. If you're talking about a story, give the page number. If you're talking about a poem, give the line number. The author introductions in the PDF do not count. You can only use what you find in the paper handout, the actual stories and actual poems, not the author introductions. So look, this bad example, no evidence, no page numbers, nothing. If we look at a good example, same question, good example. First, it starts by answering the question, and it gives you quotations, it gives you location. This is a play, so this is scene 1, lines 39 to 46. It gives you this in the middle of the answer. At the end, there is no references, there is no bibliography. If you don't give me this stuff in the middle, and you give me something at the bottom, I will ignore this bottom part. You can use any resource except other people. So you can go online, you can go to the library, you can watch the recordings, you can do anything except to discuss with other people. But you can discuss with me. You can also use other information that you find online or in the library, but you must also give me the name of the source, the location, like the web address, the page number, or if it's a video, the timestamp, 时间戳记. Again, in parentheses next to the information, in the middle of your answer, not at the bottom. If your evidence or information does not have a location or source right next to it, I will ignore it. You don't have to keep Moodle open all week. You can write your answer somewhere else and then copy and paste it into Moodle. Don't give me a link to a Google Doc. Give me your actual answer. You can submit as many answers as you want, and I will give you the highest grade. So if you submit and then you remember something you forgot to say, you can submit again. If you do not answer the question or answer it in the wrong format, or you plagiarize, which means you steal other people's words or ideas without telling me where you got it, you'll get a 0. So these rules are important. If you don't follow these rules, you'll get a 0. Plagiarism or copying, even if it's just like the first paragraph, even if it's background information, if I can find your source and you did not tell me, that is plagiarism. That will get you a 0. AI. If you want to use AI, you can, but AI gives terrible answers, and you may not see why the answers are terrible, but I can see why. So it's very risky. You must always double check if you do want to use AI. Finally, usually Moodle will not tell you when you get a grade, but this year we have new Moodle. If you go to the top, notifications, settings, there is this lesson essay graded notification. This looks like it means when I give you a grade, Moodle will tell you. So if you turn this on, we can see if that works. But just in case it does not work, you'll have to log on to Moodle yourself and check your grade. You can check your grade by clicking here, grades. Midterm exam, the highest grade is 40. So your grade will be out of 40 total. Right, and if you did not get a perfect score, I will leave a comment to explain why. Here are some example essay question answers. The information will not help you, but the writing style and the format could give you some ideas. Here is a Chinese PDF about why copying and plagiarism is bad. The exam has begun. It will go to next Thursday before midnight. Do you have questions so far? Okay, that's not good. I want to show you the exam, the question, but it's not letting me. Why is it not letting me? Okay, I'll send you an email explaining the questions. Please pay attention to your email. Okay, that's it. Good luck. If you have other questions, feel free to come and talk to me. Next week, we're watching a movie so that you have time to keep doing the exam. In 2 weeks, we're going to begin reading the novel. So um, before 2 weeks later, please read up to the end of. Oh gosh, we have to spend some time about this. The novel is divided into chapters and sections. Please read up to the end of chapter 1 and the second section that is called Margot. There are 2 sections called Margot. Please read up to the end of the second one. The novel is about a woman who used to be a serial killer and is now being a librarian in a small town, and is told from 2 different perspectives: the perspective of the serial killer and the perspective of a woman who comes to join this library as a new worker and slowly discovers that her coworker is a serial killer. Very fun. Okay, see you next week.